This is a question that I get time and time again from clients that we're onboarding here at the Insights Inner Circle, which is a service completely geared around building out business funding systems that are custom to our clients' needs, where we implement that system into their business so that they can predictably and sustainably scale access to working capital. And so this question kept coming up quite a bit. And so I figured, what the heck? Let's make a video around it, because I'm sure it's one that comes up time and time again, even for people that maybe aren't working with us or aren't working with us yet. And so the way that I want you to view this training that I'm about to go through with you is I want you to see it not as a linear approach, meaning if I do A, then I get B, and then that equals to C, right? That's more of a kind of like a straight line video. You get in what you put out. This video is what I would consider more of a critical thinking piece, where you're going to want to categorize yourself into one of these groups that I'm going to give you. The reason why this is going to be important for you is because if you can identify this bottleneck in your business, then getting access to working capital is going to become far easier for you. And so I actually want to deal with, I would consider maybe 50%, give or take, maybe 60% of our audience, of those of us that watch us online. And again, we do have an occasional group of startups that also decide to start working with us. And so I wanted to start here because this is going to cover the majority of us, at least for this piece right here. And that's, if your business is under 12 months of age, let's categorize that. Under 12 months of age formed, meaning the LLC, the S Corp, or the C Corp, then you are what I would consider a startup. Not so much on, this will be a completely separate video, not so much from a revenue standpoint. For the purpose of this video, if your entity is under 12 months of age, then you are what I would consider a startup. And so this is for you if you are generating some type of revenue. So if we're, let's say, in the middle of July and you've already generated, let's say, $250,000 and you just launched your business in January, then again, you're still a startup. So whether you have some revenue coming in or no revenue, or if you're planning to launch, the reason why getting access to business credit as a complete startup is going to be beneficial for you is because I'd say you have an advantage that the existing business owner doesn't have. And remember, this data is coming from the files that we work with, from 6, 7, and 8-figure small business owners and entrepreneurs. Why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we want to fast track getting access to equipment, inventory, and marketing. But I want to take it a step further, because the advantage that you have that I just finished mentioning is that you're able to do this right from the beginning, versus sometimes whenever we're bringing on a client that's maybe already been in business for a couple of years, we have to put them through an audit. And so on that audit, we had them potentially reclassify their business. We have them potentially change their business address because it's getting flagged. Maybe their business is considered a high industry or even a restricted industry, which is even worse. Sometimes geographically, the business just doesn't make sense in terms of what the bank wants to see. And so as a startup, you're able to check, you're essentially able to check off all of these boxes so that when you install a funding system into your business, you're able to predictably, sustainably get access to working capital, which is what we aim for with our clients, especially the startups, because we want to get this right from the beginning. The second pro that I see to this is that you are able to, again, from the beginning, separate your personal finances from your business finances. This protects you from something happening called piercing the corporate veil. What is happening when you pierce the corporate veil is that, God forbid, someone sues the business and they take you to court. Anything that's listed, let's say on the business side, if you've been using personal credit lines, that's one of many ways that you can pierce the corporate veil. But what could end up happening is that, God forbid, you get sued, you have properties, you have vehicles over on your personal name. That person or the other company that decides to sue your company, if that corporate veil is pierced, they can go directly to the source, which in this case, it's you, the business owner. That would, at the top, I would say, that would be one of the main reasons why I take business credit so seriously and why our clients take it so seriously, is because it provides that extra layer of protection. And if I could give you a third piece of why this is going to be important and why getting access to working capital as a startup, apart from setting up your business the right way and obviously scaling it, is if, again, you get audited, especially if you have an LLC, you're far more likely to get audited by the IRS. And if you had maybe an S corp, all of your ducks are lined up and in a row. And so if you're working with your CPA, they're going to love you. They're going to thank you. And they're going to say, oh, thank you so much for making my life easier and your life easier by having, again, a differentiating factor of what's a business expense, what's a personal expense, and you aren't what they call commingling your funds, which kind of ties into piercing the corporate veil. So this is where you getting access to business capital instead of personal credit or personal savings is going to pay off big time. And so if you're a startup, if you're the startup phase, this is a good time to consider using business credit. Don't just think that you have to be this big, grandiose business for you to get access to working capital. If you're lined up properly with the exact metrics that the banks want to see, we have other videos that have covered this for what they look for in underwriting, then you're able to get access to working capital. And again, use that to scale versus diving into your personal savings that you're maybe having to use to pay for your things like rent, your personal vehicle expenses, maybe your mortgage. Keep them separate. The next type of phase that you're maybe in, though, is in the expansion phase. Now, let's define that. This is going to be growth opportunities. This is when your business is ready to expand. And so now I'm talking more toward those of us who already have potentially an existing business, a business model, an idea that's already starting to see success. Now, whether this is opening a new location, increasing production capacity, or launching new products, business credit is going to help you finance these growth initiatives. Now, this phase is, again, more for proven business models and seasoned business owners. And so now we're well past not just the startup phase, but we're diving into someone who already knows their market, someone who already knows how to turn a dollar in their business. So in my opinion, this type of person right here, because we have them inside of our company that we help service, you're already profitable and you already know what the heck you're doing. And so you don't need anyone to tell you, hey, this is how you make your first dollar. You already know how to do that. You just need the working capital so that you can continue to reinvest into those into those growth opportunities. So again, you already have the fire. This is the way that I always explain it. You already have the fire. You're just adding more fuel to what's already working. The third is cash flow management. Here's how this breaks down. This is known as, we have two things. We have seasonal fluctuations and then we have payout gaps. I'm going to define both for you. Seasonal fluctuation is if your business experiences seasonal variations in cash flow. A business credit line is going to help you manage the expenses during slower periods and ensure that you have working capital available when needed. Now, payout gaps is when you use the business credits so that you can bridge the gap between paying suppliers, receiving payments from customers, and helping maintain smooth operations. And so I want to give you guys a real world scenario. We were recently dealing with a contractor over in the construction sector. Now, for him, where he was located geographically, summertime or spring, summer, and going into fall is prime time for him. And so this is when, like right now, at the time of this recording, I'm recording this in the middle of July. And so right now for him, this is when this cash flow cycle right now probably wouldn't be as necessary. Here's why. He has a lot of cash flow coming in. And so he's able to properly fund out some of the projects that he has, at least for now, right? But I want to give you kind of like the counter to that, which is when he came on board, he said, hey, I don't need the working capital right now, but I know that I'm going to need it when wintertime comes around, because if you deal in construction, then you know that the way that it works is you're usually getting paid on a net 30, net 45, net 60. And so you'll pick up a project, and then when that project is done, that's when you'll have the capital to pay out your guys or, finish covering the rest of the supplies, depending on what's on the contract, right? And so we told them, let's do this. We can use half of the capital that's coming in from your business. This was a strategy that we gave him. Some of the capital that's coming in from your business that you can use to, again, reallocate. You can use to pay off your guys. You can use to pick up more projects. But then you actually have cash flow coming in right now that you can flex to financial institutions, showing them how stable your business is, which is actually a fantastic time for us to go in and implement this funding strategy directly into your business. That's exactly what we did. And obviously it was off to the races with him. Now there's something known as a secondary gap. which is your payroll gaps, and then you have your project gaps. Your payroll gaps is, again, you're going to have a gap between when you have access to the capital and when you can pay your team. If you have a team, especially again in that contracting space, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are in real estate, then you know exactly what I'm talking about to pay off your team of vendors, to pay off your team of suppliers, of contractors, of subs, of even employees. And then you have project gaps, which is if you have, and by the way, you can substitute project with deal, meaning if you are constantly having to wait for a current project to pay you in order for you to be able to go out and pick up the next project, that's known as a project gap. Insert deal. If you're having to wait to close this deal right now, maybe it's a fix and flip, to then go into the next deal, that's known as a deal gap. The reason that's important for you to know is because if you have access to a business line of credit, that is going to essentially bridge the gap between your waiting period and when you can start working on that next opportunity. This is why, if you're in this space and if you already have cash flow coming in, maybe you are in a high cycle cash flow season, it's a good time. And again, this isn't linear, this is situational. If this fits you, it's most likely a good time to start thinking about getting access to business credit. Even if you feel right now cash flow is running, double down on it, because you're going to be able to increase the odds or the opportunity of how much you get versus having to wait for a slow season. Next up, taking advantage of opportunities. This is slightly different from cash flow management. Here's why. This is unseen or unforeseen, I should say, opportunities, which is sometimes they're going to be unexpected. Sometimes there's going to be unexpected situations where an opportunity arises, such as maybe a bulk purchase discount or a chance to acquire a competitor if you're maybe into buying businesses, right? Having business credit in place is going to ensure that you can act on this opportunity and capitalize on it quickly. Let's say that you have a deal that you can't pass on, suddenly comes up, and all of a sudden you say, okay, I have 70K from one project that I just finished closing out, or I just had a big month. We have 70K sitting in the account, but that opportunity is, let's say, 150. Well, guess what? Having access to that credit line is going to allow you to bridge the gap or kind of like make up the difference between where you're at now and where you're looking to go. So I love the book Blue Ocean Strategy, or Blue Ocean. And so if you're in a place right now where you've identified a blue ocean in your market, it's not a sea of red where all the competitors are. It's time for you to double down on that. And this is a conversation that I was actually having with one of our clients. And I said, dude, there's no one in your market that's doing what you're doing right now. And I believe that you're actually doing a disservice to the people who should know about your business, but they don't because you're undercapitalized, right? I think he had a fantastic product. I won't say what it was, just, for his privacy. Fantastic product that I really do believe he's going to be able to take to the next level. But what he was missing was the way that he was funding his business was he was using the majority of his personal funds and credit, which is kind of what I mentioned about the startup. But this guy was already turning a big profit. And so what he's missing now is scale. And so if you're in that spot where you have a blue ocean opportunity and you're not doubling down on it, not only are you leaving a lot of money on the table, but you're also doing a disservice to the people that need your service, need your product, and would love to do business with you. Cash in on that if you could fulfill on that promise. So take advantage of these opportunities. Next up, a strong financial position. This is going to be another important time where you should be looking at getting access to business credit. And I know this may sound counterintuitive, but here's what this means. Applying for business credit when your business is in a strong financial position, this is going to increase the likelihood of approvals with access to more capital and better terms. But I want to define that further, because if not, then it just loosely sounds like a high cash flow cycle. That's not what this is. This is a little bit more than that. Your personal credit is primed and ready to go. This means that if you were maybe structuring your business right now and you were forming it, you were waiting for maybe a name change because you found out that the name was maybe considered a high risk. but your business credit scores are on point, your ratings are lined up, you have been driving revenue into your business, you have, let's say, 2 years of returns as an example, but you were just waiting on like one or two things to come off of your credit so that you can again be in that 750, 760 range, that would be a good time to strike while the iron is hot. That's one situation. Next one is after a significant business credit line approval. Banks love to compete for business and they love to retain their clientele. And little pro tip, that should be all of us should be in that retention business. Repeat customers is fantastic. But going back into this, after a significant business credit line increase, you can also tie this in to a personal credit line increase because the majority of the time you're going to be personally guaranteeing unless you're putting up collateral. You're going to be personally guaranteeing, which means banks typically take a look at the average of all of your credit lines. And so if you have 1 to 2 credit lines that recently had an increase given to it, then that's going to raise the averages of the total credit lines. This is also true on the business credit side. And so for those of us that are maybe not startups and we already have access to some form of business credit, and I'm talking about financial accounts, not vendor accounts, with real financial accounts issued by banks, that's going to be a good time for you to go in either back into that bank because obviously that relationship is formed and there's trust there, or for you to go in at another business, at another bank or credit union that you can go in and ask for additional capital because now they're going to have a reference point that they can turn to, which is that significant business credit line increase. So they're going to say, wait a minute. If that bank, if Bank A gave them a significant business credit line increase, then, us, Bank B, we want some of that as well because it looks like they are a good customer to have. And that's where once you kind of go over that bridge and you get that first dollar across, that's how you slowly start to ramp and scale out the business capital that you get. Next up, business revenue is stacked in your favor. That's pretty self-explanatory. Business can show profitability. Obviously, if you are claiming losses, if you are right now maybe of the 5 years on your taxes and maybe strategy-wise, you're trying to claim as many losses as possible, then maybe that's not your best, I would say, position because right now, financially, you're not primed for additional working capital. Obviously, there's other methods that we can use to get access to working capital, but maybe using a P&L in this case is going to only be beneficial for you if you're actually, again, turning the profit. And lastly, we have liquidity and accounts. This is right after a strong cash flow cycle, preferably. Now, liquidity and accounts simply means that you have access to cash in the bank so that the bank, the financial institution, the underwriters, they see, okay, there's money in here. And so this is one of the ways that you can build up your internal bank rating with them. And this is also one of the ways that they can lower their, what they call their risk mitigation, because they see this is a healthy business outside of the owner having being responsible, having a primed credit score. They also have a healthy business, which one of the fastest ways to dictate how healthy a business is by looking at its cash flow. And then lastly, the best time to get access to business credits and start going after it is before major expenses, not after the account's wiped out, not after you've made the world's biggest purchase your business has ever seen. It is before a major expense. And so let's define that. Planned investments. If you anticipate significant expenses in the near future, such as upgrading technology or purchasing new equipment, securing business credit ahead of time, is going to ensure that you are prepared. This is the whole purpose of this, is that you are prepared. And by the way, you can also insert in there if you're planning on purchasing a property. Not after, not during the underwriting process, before. That is going to be when you want to strike, when the iron is hot. This is how you stay ahead of the curve, because it's better to have it in place before you need it or when you don't need the capital than it is to, quote unquote, hey man, I need this to stay alive. Now, can you still get it even if your business, again, is hurting for that capital? Yes, but I believe that a lot of us get a little desperate when we are in just like reserve mode. Even the way that we make decisions gets a little cloudy when we are down to our last dollar, down to our last month. And so you also want to keep an eye on that, because that is one of the metrics that banks like to look at is, based on where they're at, what's their burn rate? How far off are they from, if they use up what the funds that they have in their account, are they from going out of business? Banks can smell desperation. It's going to repel them. So those are all of the different reasons that I wanted to give you on when it's a good time to get access to business credit. This isn't a one size fits all. This is 100% going to be case by case. And so I would recommend going back through this training that I just gave you so that you can see, okay, based off of where I'm at, this is where I feel, it's going to be best for me. I'm in growth mode. Yeah, let's double down on some capital. I'm in startup mode, but I have a really good idea that I'm looking to get, taken off the ground. I've already proven concept with, a couple of customers, but I'm actually looking to take this thing from a side hustle. We're going legit. I'm getting the LLC set up tomorrow, whatever it is. Okay, bam. That's what's going to suit you. If you're in a spot right now where you need our team to take a look at your business, where you're at and where you're looking to go, we can help build out a custom funding plan directly for your business. We can help you implement that and bolt that on into your business so that you can predictably and sustainably scale access to working capital. If you're at all interested in that, go ahead, book a call. I'll go ahead and link it below in the description and pinned as the first comment. Head over to insideinnercircle.com. You can book your demo there. We'll speak to you and see how we can help. But other than that, I appreciate you guys checking me out. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.